very informative. I want you to know that we have started recording the presentation so that it can be shared with agencies and individuals that could not make it today. So to start, I will pass the mic to our director, Suzanne Obiora.
Oh, thanks for that, Cynthia, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for attending our information session today. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Suzanne Obiora, and I'm the Director for Gender and Race Equity, Inclusion, Indigenous Relations, and Social Development, and I've been with the city for almost 2 years. Before we begin our information session, I would like to recognize the land in which we are gathered virtually today. It's important that we center our understanding and appreciation for the land in which Ottawa is located, which is the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation, and is a gathering place for the culturally rich and diverse communities of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We recognize that the original people of this land have taken great care to maintain a state of balance and harmony for thousands of years and continue to do so today. And it's important that we recognize the inescapable sacrifices that have led to our presence here today and understand our role as government, as social service providers, as residents in the city, with our commitments to listen, learn, and continue our process towards understanding the truth experienced by Indigenous peoples. So the team has come together this afternoon to provide you with an overview of the community funding evaluation framework. But before we get into that, I wanted to take some time to acknowledge the significant challenges that the social services sector has been living through, particularly in the past 2 years. We're seeing incredible challenges as it relates to food insecurity, housing, the impacts of COVID-19. We're continuing to live through and still have much to learn about how that's having an impact on individuals in our community. Significant pressures within our healthcare system, instability within our labor market. It's been a rough go these past few years, all of which I know you're quite familiar with. And notwithstanding these challenges, each and one of your agencies have gone above and beyond through your leadership and collaborative efforts to support the sector to address the needs in our community. And it's not lost on any one of us that in keeping your doors open, our city has benefited from some social safety net in its most vulnerable time. So really wanting to take a moment to acknowledge the work that you've been doing to keep our community together, the work that you've been doing as a collective to support significant needs in our community. And as a city, we continue with our commitments to support the social services sector, one of which is through the community funding streams, and really are coming here in a collaborative way between agencies and the city to ensure that we have the many essential programs and services that benefit residents in Ottawa. So while we talk about the evaluation framework, which is important, it's of course important to capture the impact of the work that we're doing to help with informing how we invest and address and respond to needs in our community. Before getting into that, we just wanted to take a moment to really acknowledge where we are and what we've been doing together. The team will take some time to go through a first draft of what we're imagining will be an engagement process to inform evaluation of programs that are funded through our community streams. And we're really looking for your input, your knowledge, and involvement in our process. We want to do this in a way that's collaborative. So we are sharing that this process will be iterative. This is one of a series of sessions that we hope to have. And we'll likely, my lights have gone off in my office here. We'll likely make some adjustments through our engagement sessions based on your feedback. So with that, I would like to introduce Cynthia Paget, who's our program manager for the social development and funding team, who will be providing you with an overview of the community funding evaluation framework. I'll pass it back to you, Cynthia.
Oh, thank you, Suzanne. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the social development and the social development funding team. Sarah Mullen and Sarah Terry are the project lead on the evaluation framework. Ramat Shahidi, Kate Capogreco, Maria Penton are community development consultants. So is Sarah Mullen. So you already know them all, and if not, you will soon. We also have Monique Guibault as our financial service technician, Dana Martino as a program coordinator, and Matt Phillips as our program assistant. So it's all the work that you're going to see today is supported and powered by this fantastic team. So we have the privilege to work with. So today we'll provide you with a high-level overview of the community funding evaluation framework. You will see that we are taking a phased approach to implement the framework from now until 2024. So not all the data not all the requirements that we're going to present today have to be collected in 2022 and 2023. We will walk you through those steps. As Suzanne mentioned, there will be, this is the launch of a series of presentation and engagement that we will host over the next 6 months, the first half of 2023. So there will be future engagement session that will focus on specific pillars of the framework and different impact areas. So we will present that the whole framework and will help you identify where does your agency fit within that framework. During the presentation, if you have any questions after the information session, you can follow with your community funding consultant. If you do not know which one is your consultant, you can always reach out to community funding at ottawa.ca and we will direct you. And maybe I mentioned at the beginning of the session, I know other people are joining. The presentation is being recorded and will be shared after this meeting. So I'll walk you to the agenda. Next slide. So I will present you a bit of the context, the background about how we got here today. We'll present you the framework, so our current logic model, the 3 pillars of data collection, which is new, and what does that mean in terms of expectation of reporting for 2022, 2023, and 2024 and forward. We'll also give you a bit of a quick view on a pilot project that we will be launching in early 2023 on the impact evaluation platform that will support one of our pillar of data collection. We close the presentation on the next step, what to expect in the annual funding report, what are the timelines, and we will have a time for question and answer. So during the presentation, I encourage you to use the chat. I see that it's already populating. Thank you for that. So use the chat to put your comments, your questions. So the community funding team will be engaging in the chat, but might not respond to all of the questions in the chat. They will pull the question in on the side for me, and I will make sure that either the questions have been answered in this presentation, or I will provide the information during the Q&A, And if you don't have a question written in the chat, there will also be an opportunity to speak out at the end of the presentation. I do encourage you to use the chat though, because we are currently at 105 people. So to not forget your questions and to make sure we have enough time to capture it, it will be saved that way. All the questions that are going to be asked today and that were asked at the French presentation on Tuesday are going to be compiled to create an FAQ that will be circulated after that that meeting, along with the presentation and other relevant information for your agency. So let's get us started on the background. So next slide, please. As you're probably very familiar with, the community funding framework was reviewed in 2018. We needed a framework to enable us to meet the needs, to identify where the needs are the most pronounced, offer enough flexibility to address the emerging and urgent need, strengthen existing investment, and overall contribute to healthy social infrastructure and community well-being. So in 2019, Council approved a new vision, mission, mandate, priorities, and funding stream. And in 2020, Council approved the community funding framework policy statements that govern our funding stream and how they are allocated. So all this information is also available on ottawa.ca. So the new framework was implemented in January 2022. The presentation today is targeted around the Sustainability Fund and the Community Safety and Wellbeing Fund. So next slide, sorry. So the Sustainability Fund is our biggest funding stream on the community funding framework. This is a 5-year funding term for 26 million, and we fund 94 agencies across a variety of priorities and impact area. 22 new agencies were onboarded this year that were not in receipt of renewable funding prior to this year. So welcome everybody. Very happy to have you on board. And the Sustainability Fund provides, as you probably know, core funding and also program funding. And really the mandate, the purpose is to maintain and support a strong social infrastructure and network of community nonprofit agencies, with the ultimate goal to ensuring equitable access to program and services for residents that need it the most. So my understanding is that most of the agencies here are in receipt of Sustainability Fund. Under the Community Funding Framework, we will also evaluate the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Fund. In December last year, City Council approved the transfer of unallocated funds from the 2022 Ottawa Police Services budget in support of the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan through the Community Funding Framework. The priorities for that funding were projects and services for racialized youth, mental health, and Indigenous services. So 2.1 million is currently allocated to 18 agencies. Only 2 of those agencies are not currently in receipt of Sustainability Fund. So you'll see the intersection as to why those 2 funds are being evaluated together. And also they're complement each other. The funding period for the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Fund is of 3 years. So it started in June 2022. So those are the 2 funding streams that are that will be included in the Community Funding Framework review, the Community Funding evaluation. So why do we need a framework? We have been told loud and clear. That's what we hear loud and clear during the consultation, during the review in 2018-2019, that we need a stronger impact assessment mechanism. It's needed for transparency, accountability, community funding is 100% municipal funding. So is the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Fund. So there's different reasons why we need an evaluation framework. The intent really is to have a tool that is useful and efficient for all of your agencies and for the city. So this will provide a mechanism to identify the strengths and the opportunities to support strategic decision making, both for the agencies and the city. This will enhance the transparency and support clear criteria for funding decision, clear measures of progress toward what we're trying to collectively achieve. It adds accountability for the funds dispersion because we are accountable to the residents, to the agencies, to council, and to the residents of Ottawa at large. So our accountability is multiple, and that will help tell our stories. I think that is the aspect that I'm really excited about. That the whole framework is structured so that we can showcase, highlight the work that is done, the impact that the work has, and how do we share better collective stories. The whole process is a collaborative one. We would not be able to do it without you. One of the steps in that collaboration was the community funding evaluation survey that was distributed a little bit earlier this year. Thank you so much for everyone that completed the survey. We had over 80 agencies completing the survey. So I'm going to walk you through a few highlights of it and point out how did we integrate those findings into the planning for the evaluation framework. So to the question, do you store the social demographic data collected from client in a database? The vast majority of agencies responded yes. So more than 50% of the respondents collect information on gender, address, date of birth, language spoken, disability status, and the size of the household. Social demographic questions that are less frequently collected include religion, income, sexual orientation, employment, education. Why are we interested in social demographic data? The simplest answer is that we want to ensure that the residents that need it the most, that face the greatest barriers to accessing programs and services, are served in a way that respects the dignity, that they have the programs and the services that they need. And that will be an opportunity for us to see again the strength of the services in the program and also the gaps. Do we have residents across our city that do not receive the services? And if so, what are we going to do to fill those gaps? Next slide, please. So when we ask you about the barriers in doing evaluation, three main items came up. We hear a lot about the low response rate, the lack of staff resources, and the lack of technical resources. So those will be, those are the barriers that we have considered and will continue to consider in the planning and the rollout of the evaluation framework. If we dive a little bit deeper into the low response rate, so what explained that? We heard that clients are uninterested in completing a survey. Clients don't feel comfortable sharing demographic information. The type of program or services make it challenging to ask, 100%. Language barrier, and clients don't have access to technology to complete survey. And that's where the impact evaluation platform pilot that we'll be presenting to you earlier will help address some of those concerns. Give me just one sec. Sorry about that. Thank you. So we'll present you the logic model for the evaluation framework. Next slide, please. we're showing you, so this was the original logic model. We're showing it to you now because some of you have seen it when we created the contribution agreement at the end of last year or earlier this year with your agencies to help select what programs from your agencies will be evaluated. We have reworked some of the intermediate, immediate, intermediate, and long-term outcomes to really scope it back to key performance indicators across the whole breadth of program and services that we fund that ultimately inform our long-term outcomes of when it comes to poverty reduction, which is one of our priority. The outcome is the residents' life experiences improve. When we talk about community development, we're going to look at how communities achieve positive change. And then we talk about social infrastructure. We want to see the social infrastructure of Ottawa strengthened and resilient. The ultimate goal of it is to have a responsive, equitable, and strengthened social services sector that enhance overall community well-being. So the next slide is the simplified structure of our approach. So our priority is to increase community well-being by investing in poverty reduction, community development, social infrastructure, to address the root causes of poverty and increase equitable access to services for individuals and families, community, social structure. You will see here the priority populations in the framework and the outcomes that I just described. So we will, so each of those priorities, those three priorities, are further developed in impact areas. On the next slide, voila. So this represents the scope of the program and services that that are funded under the Sustainability Fund, the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Fund. So we say that poverty reduction encompasses basic needs, mental well-being, social inclusion, food insecurity, skills development, and system navigation. Community development includes resident engagement and resident capacity. Social infrastructure include organization networks and coalitions and common priorities issues that are addressed through those coalition networks and organizations. So we will, some agencies, oh, can you go back to the other slide, please? Yeah, see. If you don't know at this point where your agencies or your programs fit within those impact area, this is totally normal. This is the first presentation. Community funding consultant will follow up with each of your agencies in December and will clarify and define where your agencies and your program fits in those impact areas. So next slide, let's talk about the three pillars of data collection. The first pillar that we introduced this year is an agency self-assessment. It will be a quick exercise to do for the senior leadership team in the organization to understand the state of the agency's ongoing operations in terms of capacity and sustainability. I will walk through the details in a little bit. The second pillar are the agencies and program outputs. So if you were in receipt of renewable funding prior to the Sustainability Fund, the annual funding submission, that is now called the annual funding report, is the model. So we'll track summary of programs and cooperation. So we talk about the number of clients, the number of staff, the number of volunteers, and there will be, based on the impact area, some key performance indicators KPIs that will be specific for your program and your organization that will also be collecting. All of those KPI contribute overall to our ultimate outcomes. And the third pillar that we'll be talking about today are the client impact survey. There is no other way to measure the impact of the program and the services that we have than to ask the residents that receive those services. This is a new addition to the evaluation framework. We are very excited about that. We will have a lot of conversations about what that means. How are we going to tailor that to each organization? Consider your capacity, consider the tools that you're already doing right now. And to support this one, I said we will launch a pilot platform in 2023 with the food security sector. More detail to come on that. And all the agencies will be expected to start collecting data on that in 2024. So let's break that down a little bit. The agency self-assessment, it will be one document where we will ask your agencies to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10 on financial sustainability, human resource functionality, governance structure, program operation, technical capacity, partnerships, management, equity, diversity, and inclusion. On each of those domains, you will have to rate yourself from 1 to 10 and reflect on the reason for your rating. This is not this is not to compare within the agencies. This is to gain deeper, bigger picture of what are your needs, your strength, and how the community funding team can work with your agencies to address those or to leverage those. So it's really the community funding team has the mandate to allocate the funding, but also to work with your agencies to ensure that you have the capacity and the resources that you need to deliver the service and programs that are needed. So this exercise will help us have those conversations. There will be, so we will send that to you after that meeting in December. We will send you all the draft of the appendix. What does that look like? So you'll be ready for that, and the community funding consultant will follow up with you on that one. This is, if I am correct, I believe that United Way currently ask a version of that for some of their funds. Voila. So the second pillar of data collection are the output. So we want to understand the breadth and depth of services that are delivered both by your agencies and at a program level. So it will be collected annually as part of the annual funding report. So every agency for 2022, so at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, will be required to submit the outputs for the whole agencies and the funded programs. Number of unique clients, and number of total client contacts, number of part-time and full-time staff and volunteers. And when you say like all agencies and funded programs, which program you're going to be reporting on, because it varies from agencies. For some agencies, it's very clear. We select for CHRCs, for example, there's a selection of programs of reporting on that are already identified in your contribution agreement, and those will be validated and confirmed before the end of the year. What is new in the agency and program outputs are the impact area outputs, as those are specific to the impact area categories, and these outputs will be confirmed with the sector in the engagement session in 2023, and will begin reporting in 2024. So an example of an impact area output for the food security sector could be the number of meals served, pounds of food. For a counseling program or agencies, it could be the number of counseling sessions or group sessions. So it's very specific to the services that you deliver. And those key performance indicators have been developed by the draft have been first developed by the consulting firm Goss Gilroy So many of your agencies have been part of the engagement that was about 2 years ago on defining those. We also validated those KPI with United Way, Ottawa Community Foundation, so Trillium as well, so that we can make sure that we align those requirements with what the agencies are currently collecting and what other funders are also asking. So the next slide will show you again the impact area. So as you see, again, social infrastructure, you have organization working coalition. Under mental well-being, you will have like crisis lines, crisis intervention, professional counseling, peer support, mentorship. Those impact area reflect, again, the scope of the programs that are funded by the community funding framework. You obviously will not report on all of those. You will have a specific plan that is really tailored to your organization. The third pillar, which I know we will have a lot of conversation on, are the client impact survey. So the survey question will be confirmed with the sectors in 2023 during the engagement, and agencies are expected to start serving their clients in 2024. We'll be piloting a platform to help manage, distribute the survey, and also with a dashboard function that will be available for the agencies and the city. The dashboard is updated daily. It addresses a lot of the barriers that were presented in that rose in the survey. I'll talk a little bit more about the IEP, but why do we need survey? It's really to provide an opportunity to the clients to share the impact of these programs and services and get a better understanding if the clients feel the programs are meeting the objectives of the CFF. The survey will include social demographic information, one standard mandatory KPI for all the survey is like, was I treated with respect and dignity while accessing this service or this program? There will be 2 to 4 mandatory KPI based on the impact area that are most relevant to your agency. When it comes to the frequency of reporting, that will differ on the structure of your program and services. So programs that have a specific endpoint will sound the survey upon the completion of the program in order to not create barriers to accessing the program. Programs that provide ongoing support will have the option to select 2 months a year to distribute the survey to clients. And the distribution is flexible and be determined based on the unique needs of the clients and the categories. So there will be an opportunity to tailor the survey, to add your questions, to really make it useful for your agency as well. If you can go back here, thank you. Yes, and then we'll talk in the impact evaluation framework about how we can address some of the barriers in the low response rate, the technical support, and the lack of staff. So here is the big picture. Now let's bring it home and see what that could look like for a meal program, for example. So Instant Deliver meal program will be required to submit an agency self-assessment in 2022. We'll continue, if you were in receipt of renewable funding before, to report on the number of unique clients, client contacts, part-time and full-time staff hours, and number of volunteers and hours. The impact area output for a meal program, as it's drafted right now and be validated, but it could look like the number of meals that are delivered And the client impact survey question will include demographic questions. I was treated with respect and dignity when I used this service. I had access to more healthy food when I used this program. The program offered a variety of appropriate food that I can eat, and I had access to enough food for myself. So those KPI are linked to our overall outcomes and objectives. And again, we're validated to development of it, and it will be again validated in the next 6 months. But we already have a list of KPI for each impact area that are informed on the current practice of the agencies and what other funders are requesting. So we do not reinvent the wheel. I will present you with another example, what it could look like for a professional counseling program. Again, the self-assessment and the program level outputs. The impact area outputs could look like the number of sessions attended by client, the number of group sessions that have been hosted, and the total hours of counseling provided. The client impact survey, in addition to the demographic question and the respect and dignity question, could include, I have improved my knowledge and or skills by using this program. I have learned how to better manage my stress after attending this program. I have a more hopeful view of the future after attending this program. So as you will see, we're starting from the whole framework, and we're really going to bring it home for your agencies and your program in a way that makes sense for the services that you deliver and the clients that you deliver. Yeah, and I'm seeing like notifications on the chat going, and I'm really liking all of the comments and the suggestions. So thank you for participating and talking through it. I'm sorry I'm not able to read at the same time, but I see them coming, and I really appreciate that you're taking the time to comment on that, because that's exactly what we want and need. So the impact evaluation platform that I alluded a few times already, this is going to be a pilot project launched in 2022, and we will start with the food security sector. So let me just go back here to my notes. Okay. So we know that collecting survey from clients is not an easy task. It's something that requires planning, time, and capacity. Sorry, I'm not able to access now. Okay. So we have been looking at a platform to help collecting the surveys. This is currently a tool that is used by RBC, Trillium, and other funders. It's an online platform that helps us create the survey, administer them, and that upload the data in a dashboard in real time. It has a capacity of data analysis and reporting. The surveys will be developed in collaboration with the agencies so that it represents the KPI and the information needed for the evaluation framework, but can be targeted or can be modified to really ask the question that your agencies want to know. The next slide is a snapshot of what the dashboard will look like. This is currently the dashboard that RBC has. We put the Ottawa logo on it, but it's because it's in development. But that tells you a little bit about the functionality of the platform. All the questions that are going to be collected, that are going to be collected through the surveys, are presented in a dashboard. So for this one here is the preparedness. It's the RBC use for the youth program. Because there is standard KPIs across the agencies under the same impact area, you will be able to compare the results of the surveys from your agencies with the results of the surveys from the overall agencies. And I want to stress that this is not in no way a punitive approach. This is really to say, like, where are our strengths, where are the opportunities to better invest, what are the opportunities to collaborate and to work together. So that is really an opportunity to give us like a bigger picture and to have tools for conversations. So like the surveys here are going to be used like, okay, so what's happening here? And you will see as well, like, okay, so maybe this is a section that we're doing very well on. Maybe that is something that we want to look at. So we really want that tool to be useful and helpful for your agencies, and that's why we are looking into investing into that team, that platform. So the next slide, just quickly, using a platform for collecting survey data will increase the data quality, getting the information directly from the residents and from the clients. That helps answer to some of the capacity issues in the organization. There's the survey will be there. It can be done online. It can be translated. It's going to be in French and English, but there's the option to translate it in the language that you need. You can have it a paper version copy and put it online after. You can have clients answer the survey after the service or the program on an iPad, on their phone. We will be looking at if we can secure some iPads to loan. So like we're looking at options about how do we make the technology available to the organization. And it's a complementary system, as I said, because the RBC Trilliums are already using the same platform. So this is in a nutshell. There's a lot more to be said about everything, but I want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions. So I'm going to walk you to the engagement timelines and the next step. So on the next slide, you will see, thank you. This is what our engagement timeline is going to look like. So in December, you will be contacted by your community funding consultant to it will provide you information package. So the Q&A, the presentations, all the draft KPIs, all the questions, demographic questions, so all of that will be provided to you. And we'll work with your agencies again to define where your programs and your agencies fit that in that overall framework. In January, we will also work specifically with the coalitions and the programs that receive funding from equitable structures, because the outputs and the way to report on outcome is a little bit different than serving clients. So I have a little bit of a twist on that one. And between February and May, this is where the bulk of the engagement will be done. So you will see twice a month an engagement session that you'll be invited. You will know by then under which impact area your program organization fit. So you'll be invited to, you can attend them all or attend the one that are relevant to you. We will finalize the KPIs and the impact area outputs. That would be an opportunity really to assess the opportunities and the challenges and how we will mitigate. That's an opportunity to also coordinate within a sector or within an impact area what makes sense to collect collectively, what you already collect, and all that. So all of those will be happening in the first 6 months of 2023. So our objective is to have the whole framework finalized with your input and collaboration in June of 2023, which will give us 6 months to a change management to, again, continue working with you. So in 2024, we start reporting on all of those pillars. So the next slide will tell us a little bit what to expect in the engagement session. So I've already discussed that. Community funding consultant will confirm the program that will be evaluated. You will receive a copy of the evaluation framework PowerPoint, the FAQ, and the draft appendix that includes all the questions, the KPI per output, per service impact. And during the engagement session, we will really dive into the KPI, the client impact survey wording, the demographic information as well to validate all of that. So what that means in terms of reporting from 2024 to 2024, 2022 to 2024, at the end of 2022, agencies are expected to report on the basic outputs that were asked prior to 2022. So number of clients, staff, and volunteer, in addition to the self-assessment for the agency. So at the end, so this is what we'll need at the end of 2022. At the end of 2023, in addition to those two outputs, there will be sector agencies or area that are ready to report on the impact area output. Because if you are a meal program and you already collect the number of meals served, and that's the KPI, then you will be already in a position to report on that. For some agencies, you might not already collect the data that is needed for the evaluation, and therefore that reporting will be done in 2024, for 2024. And the impact survey, so all agencies will be expected to start distributing surveys in 2024. 2023, we're going to start a pilot with the food security sector, and then we will build on that to develop that further for the whole sector. So that was the presentation. I might have skipped quickly on some or take too much time on others. So what I'll do now is I will stop, maybe we can stop sharing.